Hey guys, it's Nicole. I'm back with another video, and today's video is going to be about a book that's a little bit lighthearted. I know the video I made last week about a book I read recently was pretty dark, pretty morbid, so I wanted to make a video about a book that is very lighthearted, super fun, super cute, just to kind of spruce it up a little bit, so we have a variety of content to watch on my channel. Before we get into the book that we're talking about today, I just wanted to say if you have subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate every single one of you. And if you haven't, please subscribe. It's totally free. You will get notified when I upload new videos. I mean, I do that on Tuesdays and Fridays, but if that changes, or if I add more content, you'll get notified if you subscribe. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share it with anyone else that you also might think might enjoy it. I would love for people who would enjoy my channel to find me and just enjoy what I make. So please do that. Let's go ahead and get into the book we're talking about today. I picked up this book, honestly, this summer, which is going to be really funny because of the title of the book. And I did kind of read it around the summer this year. It's something that I picked up specifically because I knew the author. Not personally, but like I know her work. So the book we're talking about today is called Summer in the City by Alex Aster. Now, I know who Alex Aster is because I have one of her other books that I'm kind of in the middle of, but like I took a break from because I didn't have time to get into a series right away. But she's the author of the Light Lark series, and I did start reading the book. It's really good so far. I had to take a pause because I haven't been ready to get into a book series lately. I've just been reading one and done type of books lately. But it is on my list of things to read, and I did like what I read so far, so I was immediately like, I know this author, and so I'm definitely going to pick up this book. But that was definitely not the only reason why I picked up this book when I saw it in the bookstore. So I went to Barnes & Noble like you do, and I was with a friend, and we walked by a stand, and I think this had just come out because it's the hardcover. And I looked at it, I saw this sitting on there in the stand, and I was like, this is such a pretty cover. Like, pink isn't like necessarily my favorite all-time color, but I do like pink, so I did love the color of the cover, and I loved how obvious this was alluding to the fact that Summer in the City is very clearly summer in New York City, because there's a heart-shaped red apple, because New York City is also referred to as the Big Apple, and then there's also like the New York City skyline. So I loved the illusion there. That was, I was like, that's perfect, especially because the apple is shaped like a heart. So it's obviously a romance. And honestly, the cover kind of gave me everything I needed, like right just looking at it without reading the blurb, because it's like summer in the city, not necessarily a romance, but then when you look at the heart, you're like, this is a romance. Especially then when you look at the two people standing there, it's a man and a woman standing next to each other. They usually do that on romance covers, so it's not just a romance book, it's definitely also a drama. There's a little bit of comedy. You kind of get a little bit of everything. It's not just romance, it's not just smut. It's a little bit of everything. Also, at the top of the cover, like right above the title, it does have a review quote that says, "Pure steamy fun and the perfect summer read." And that's by Ali Hazelwood, who is another author that also writes similar books, romance, dramas, comedies type books. So obviously I was very into that. And I don't know when this started becoming more popular again, because I know that a lot of older books, especially leather-bound books, have the edges of the pages have like gold painted on them, or silver, or some other kind of color painted onto the edges of the pages. But this book comes with like an image painted on the edges of the pages. It's the New York City skyline, and it's all pink. And then there's little yellow hearts all over the place, and it's just so pretty. It's just so satisfying to look at, so I was very excited to read it. I'm gonna go ahead and read the blurb inside, and then I'll give a little bit of my thoughts of why I love this book so much before I go into like any spoilers or anything. So before it gets into the blurb at the top here, because it's the inside page, you know, it's a hardcover, it says, "From #1 New York Times bestselling author Alex Aster comes her adult debut novel, Summer in the City, a swoony, fast-paced rom-com set in New York City. in which a screenwriter and a sexy tech CEO go from lovers to enemies and back to lovers again. The blurb. 27-year-old screenwriter Elle has the chance of a lifetime to write a big-budget movie set in New York City. The only problem? She's had writer's block for months, and her screenplay is due at the end of the summer. In a desperate attempt to get inspiration, Elle ends up back in the city she swore she would never return to, in an apartment she could never afford. Floor-to-ceiling windows, skyline views, and a new coffee shop to haunt included. It's the perfect place to write her screenplay, until she realizes her new neighbor is tech billionaire bachelor Parker Warren. Such a billionaire name. Her stairwell hookup from 2 years ago. It's been a lovers to enemies situation ever since. When seeing him again turns into a full night of hate-fueled writing, Elle realizes her enemy/twisted muse just might be the key to finishing her screenplay. If she can stand being around her polar opposite. She writes anonymously, and he's on the cover of every business magazine. He frequents fancy red-carpeted events, and she doesn't like leaving her emotional support 5-block radius. One summer, one wall apart, he needs to fake a buzzy relationship during his company's precarious acquisition. She needs to write a movie around a list of NYC locations. Both need a break from their unrelenting schedules and a chance to rediscover the skyscraper glimmering, pizza-crusted, sunlit charms of the city. Summers always end, and so will this agreement. It's all pretend, promise, until it isn't. Shocker. They pretend and then it's not pretend anymore. Who would have guessed? No, I love it. I love that stuff. Enemies to lovers, they do an agreement, they fall in love at the end of it. I do enjoy that stuff. So it's one of the reasons I was like, oh yeah, I'm so into this. I'm so ready to read this. The other really gorgeous part of this book is they include illustrations of like their map. So like it's kind of like a map of New York City, but like all of the important things that are like on these maps are important to the characters. And I love that. I think that that's so, I keep saying cute, so I kind of want to just say I just love the additional like context in here. You kind of get to see and even further visualize like, oh, this is where they went on this date, and then oh, this is where like they go and try this pizza here or this pizza here. And so I do like the added context that it gives you with the maps. Plus they're really cute. So obviously I loved the cover, and then reading that blurb, I love it. I absolutely love these kinds of rom-coms, dramas, romances. They're super fun, you know? I think I've always enjoyed these kinds of books. I think I mostly just used to read the fantasy versions of them. So reading the more just drama versions of real life is definitely newer for me as I get older. But I really do like this book. It was so much fun. I don't know if it's like my favorite book of the year. I don't know if it's kind of hard to put it in like a rank. I did say earlier this year that I might make a video ranking all of the books that I read this year and like from like my most favorite to my least favorite. So it's kind of hard to say where I would put this. I don't know if I think it would be kind of towards like the middle but closer to the top, if that makes sense, because I really did enjoy it. But I did read so many other books that were so good this year, and it's kind of hard to say. But I did really enjoy this book. I really loved it. I do want to actually go ahead and read the first page of the book, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I liked about this one. So the first chapter, like all of the chapters, it doesn't say chapter, it just has the number 1, and then this one has an image. It's one of those, I'm gonna think of the name later and go, I can't believe you couldn't think of the name right away. But like when you're filming something and you need the take, you're like, take 1, and then you're like, here's the thing. So anyway, the first page of this book goes like this. In New York City, every weekend is a chance to live in a movie. Drinks on a rooftop in the shadow of a skyline cut like it was custom made for you, glittering just for that highly saturated and face-tuned within an inch of itself picture you're about to post. Dinner seated next to a celebrity who doesn't touch any of their food and loudly discusses gossip about a movie star that might make you choke on your gin and tonic. A party with drugs that look like pieces of candy, spread across a marble table in a penthouse that has back rooms for the staff, and a Pilates studio as big as your studio apartment. Unless, of course, you're like me, and a perfect Friday night looks less like mooching your way into the periphery of a table at Marquee, and more like watching Netflix in some ratty shirt that once belonged to your college roommate's ex-boyfriend. A shirt you might have stolen in one of your weaker moments because you kind of pined for him as much as you pined for that weekly pint of Ben & Jerry's you swear you're only going to have a few scoops of, truly believing in your self-control, right up until the spoon bluntly hits the cardboard at the bottom. So that's really the first page. Is a little bit more, but it kind of goes into the next page, so I'm not going to get into that. So that's what the first page sounds like. I think it's a little bit funny because it's like only 2 paragraphs into the book and you're like, this character sounds a little bit like a pick-me. Because, you know, I feel like cultural shifts happen all the time. The way we view women and the way we view ourselves. And, you know, it used to be seen as like, you're amazing and cool if you're going out all the time. And now it's like, well, you're amazing and cool if you stay in all the time. And I just think it's funny because she's like, well, my idea of fun is when you stay in and watch Netflix and have a pint of Ben and Jerry's. And I'm like, it just sounds a little bit like a pick-me, just a little bit. The character is not, like, once you get to read the book, like, she's not like that. She honestly, and I feel like a lot of the time when people say that they don't like to go out, I feel like it's like certain places they don't like to go and certain people they don't like to hang out with. And I think that's really the case with this character too. So that's what's really funny to me about reading the first page. It makes her sound a little bit like a pick-me, and she's definitely not like that. She enjoys going out. She has a reason for staying out of the spotlight, but she also likes to stay in, but she does like to go out too. So she's not that bad. But I loved reading this book. I really did. I think it's been really fun to read books that have been written like within the last year or two. This book came out this year in 2025, and I love reading modern books that came out like current, because even though it's like really fun to read books that are written in different eras and like decades ago or even centuries, it's just so much fun reading a book where you recognize every single reference because you're living it. And so that's what was fun about this book for me. I also really liked that the characters did feel very fleshed out. I noticed that with the small amount that I read of her other book, Light Lark. She's really good at fleshing out her characters pretty early on in the novels. And I really do like that, because as much as I love a good story, because you're reading books for the stories, like, of course, I love characters. I love people. I love learning about like attributes and what people are like and their flaws and their amazing qualities that maybe they're downplaying or know that they're really good at. And it's so much fun for me when character development is really paid attention to. So I loved that about this book. It felt to me that the characters were very well fleshed out. The story was cute. It was actually a really cute story. It's not any spoilers to say what it was because it says it in the blurb. The character Elle, she is the main character. She is a movie screenwriter, but she writes anonymously, so she's not famous. And Parker, who plays the billionaire tech CEO, it's kind of funny because he is portrayed as this like really like good person who just happened to become a billionaire. He's kind of what we wish billionaires actually were, if that makes sense. he's like, he loves giving to charities, and especially at the end of the book, I'm not going to spoil it, but he gets even better. So, and he genuinely cares about his customers from that use his technology. So he's kind of what we wish billionaires actually were like. And so it's fun. It's fun to read, especially because, you know, since Parker is such a good person, it's fun when you're reading all of the places that they go to where they just get into places or do these things that cost extravagant amounts of money, because it's like, wow, this is someone that I feel like, fake person, but feel like like they deserve that amount of money, and so they get to go enjoy spending all that money. And I like watching that. So it's cute for sure that he is such a good person and a billionaire at the same time. Unrealistic, but fun and cute. I also really liked that there's a really great example of a relationship between sisters in this book. I don't have a sister, but at the same time, I can recognize that relationships between people are not always like perfect, and even when you address problems or issues in your relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like immediately solved or you'll ever agree, but you can always just agree to disagree. And that kind of ends up happening in this book with Elle and her sister. I liked that that relationship was, to me, paid as much attention to as her relationship with Parker. It was also such a really great idea to make Elle's most amazing, determined quality about her character also end up being her weakness as well. Like, she is an incredibly strong, independent woman because of the way her mother ended up being treated, and you know, just how things worked out for her mother, that she was so determined to never, ever, ever rely on somebody. And it worked out because it was such a great quality for her, because she was like so determined and so tenacious, and she really built a life for herself, and she really, really built her career and honed her skill and her talent because of how determined she was. But then it also became her biggest weakness, because I mean, come on, you can't always just not rely on people. We're people. We have to rely on others at some point for some things. So I really liked that there was this is what was amazing about this quality in her, but this is why it was also her weakness. So that was also really, really great. I think I'm gonna go into spoilers now. So that's pretty much the general, like, what I liked about this book. I don't really have any dislikes, honestly. Like I said, if I had to put it in a rank of all of the other books I read, it wouldn't be like super high up just because I have other favorites. But it was still super enjoyable for me, and it was a very good summer read. I think I read it maybe in like August or September, so like at the end of summer. And it was really good. I think it's a great summer read. I think you can read it any time of the year, but if you're looking to read like seasonal books, which I do like to do sometimes, this one is a really great one. So definitely go check it out if you're interested in it. But I am going to go into spoilers now, so if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and close out the video, and thank you for watching. But just a couple of spoilers. Elle, the main character, again, like I've mentioned before, was so determined to be independent and do everything by herself that when she discovered a townhouse that she absolutely loved in the city, she wanted to buy it herself. Like, she made enough money to be able to do it. It's just that she needed it to go on the market. So she had been waiting for years for that townhouse to go on the market. But even so, after she left the city because of the bad memories of the city, some of them involving Parker, she never thought she would ever get the chance to buy it. And then it came on the market again. And Parker, being romantic because they were lovers at the time, bought it for her, and she flipped out and broke it off with him and left and everything. And what I loved so much was that she came back to the city. I don't remember how much longer after that. I think it was like a year or so. Like, she and Parker were done, and don't worry, they still get together at the end of the book. You're here for spoilers, so that is a spoiler. But at the time, they were enemies. They go from lovers to enemies several times in the book. When she was back in the city after they ended things, the third time, the place was back on sale, and she didn't know that Parker had put it back on the market so that she could buy it, because he wouldn't sell it to anybody else, but that she could buy it with her own money and that it would be hers. It would be 100% hers, and she would have the confidence and the security that she bought it herself. And she ended up realizing that that's what he did for her, and that's one of the reasons she ends up, I don't want to say forgiving him, but going to him and basically being okay starting a relationship again. And I really liked that part of the book because, I mean, I relate to that on a certain level. I do like to do pretty much as I can by myself. I like to consider myself extremely independent. But at the same time, it's always like when you read books and people tend to get like hyper independent, they're just like, oh, well, I'm independent still, I'll just let them do this for me. She didn't do that. Alex Astor wrote Elle to be like, no, I'm ending this relationship. I wanted to buy that for myself. And then she did it. She bought it for herself. And then when she saw Parker again, it was like, okay, we'll think about it. We'll slowly start being friends again, maybe. But she still bought it for herself. And I feel like there's a little bit of good and bad in that because, like I said, being independent is a really good thing, but being hyper independent can be a big weakness. And so it was almost like her needing to buy that house was like her making up for her mother struggling so much in her life when she was alive. Because I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole other story. But at the same time, she wasn't allowing herself to live and make decisions without considering herself. She was making decisions based on what happened to her mom, not herself. So it was a really interesting choice, and I really liked it because it felt very real, you know? She didn't turn the townhouse down and go, well, I won't have any money to buy it, so I guess I'll just never have anything. She had the money. She writes screenplays. Like, she's not struggling, so she's fine. So she can buy whatever she needs for herself, but she wanted that specific place. It was just really great to see what felt like a very human reaction to that in her circumstance, where she could definitely get another house. She could turn down a free townhouse because she could buy something for herself. And it felt very real to me because that's what her principles were. So that was something that stuck out to me that I really liked, that felt very real. Obviously, there's a lot of comedy in this book as well, which definitely adds to the romance. I love rom-coms because the comedy just kind of adds to it, because there's something so vulnerable about comedy, and then romance is also vulnerability, so them paired together is a beautiful concoction. It's why it's one of my favorite genres. So definitely go check it out if you're interested in that kind of stuff. But that's really all I have to say about this book. I definitely enjoyed it, and I do recommend it for those who enjoyed the genre. But that is all for this week's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.